haven't seen one in ages. So, we got to watch this like consolidation that ends up resulting in lower responsiveness to the end customer. And like I said, it's like, you can think of like in the limit, government is simply the largest corporation.
Yeah.
So there's some people, I think it's a false dichotomy to look at government and sort of industry as separate. Government is simply a corporation in the limit. It is the ultimate corporation with a monopoly. But then as you get closer to, like I said, a monopoly, as the feedback loop gets weaker and less responsive to the customer, that's where you have something which does not maximize the happiness of people, which should be our objective overall.
We had a couple of people last night at this event who are joining the Biden administration, a couple of the president-elect's senior advisors. And clearly one of the things heavily on their mind is sort of a new national industrial policy, for want of a better term. They talked about spending a lot more on research and development and fostering innovation, big government spending, basically. Is that kind of national industrial policy a good idea? Is that a good use of government right now in your mind? And if it is, where would you focus that kind of effort?
Well, it's government's responsibility to establish the rules of the game and then ensure that those rules are properly enforced. Like sort of like the referees on the field, and it's like football or something. Then you got the rules, and you got the referees. You got to make sure the rules are the right rules, and the referees are enforcing the rules. I think that's an important role for government to ensure that the rules are correct and that the incentives are what we actually want them to be for, like I said, the long-term maximum happiness of the people into the future. Where I think government does not do a great job is when they want to not just be a referee on the field, they want to be a player on the field. This does not end up in a good situation.
We're picking winners and losers, that kind of thing.
I mean, effectively, government incentives do favor, like you're going to say, like, what are the rules of the game? This is obviously an imperfect analogy, but I do think it is a pretty good one, that you want the government to be carefully focused on ensuring the rules of the game are what we actually want them to be, that we're getting rid of old rules. This is very important, which is not occurring, and that the rules are enforced such that we have ethical behavior of companies. Now, there are times when you have an unpriced externality, such as the CO2 capacity of the oceans and atmosphere. So then, if that is not priced in effectively, then you can get behavior in industry behavior that does not, that we think is arguably not good for the environment or not good for the future of the planet. Most of the time, provided pricing is correct, you will see correct behavior from private industry. So, that's like one example where if we effectively price carbon, we'll see the right behavior, and then the government does not need to try to pick technology winners and losers. They can simply incent the outcome. I think it's incredibly important that government focus on incenting the outcome, not the path.
You mentioned California, and I have to ask, you're in Texas right now, and there's been speculation, and you've been vocal this year on some of your frustration in California. Are you relocating? Is it happening? And can you talk a little bit about what's been troubling you in California so much this year since you mentioned it?
Sure. Well, first of all, Tesla and SpaceX obviously have massive operations in California. In fact, it's worth noting that Tesla is the last car company still manufacturing cars in California. SpaceX is the last aerospace company still doing significant manufacturing in California. So there used to be over a dozen car plants in California, and California used to be the center of aerospace manufacturing. My companies are the last two left. I want to emphasize, so that's a very important point to make. For myself, yes, I have moved to Texas. We've got the Starship development here in South Texas, where I am right now. We're hopefully going to do a launch later today. And then we've got the big factory development just outside of Austin for the Gig Texas development.
And you made the move really. Why? Why did you go there? Is it all a personal decision, or was it? It was partly a corporate environment decision, really, for the headquarters, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in my case, the two biggest things that I've got going on right now are the Starship development in South Texas, which was done, this was set in motion like 5 years ago. And then the big new US factory for Tesla, which is called Giga Texas, just by Austin. So those are the two biggest projects. So these necessarily drive the use of my time here. Yeah, and then the other big thing for Tesla right now is the Giga Berlin. So I was in Berlin. I spent a fair bit of time in Berlin working on that. Yeah, I think there's California is great. So there's a lot of things that are really great about California. Obviously, it's the biggest economy in the country, most number of people. I do think that there is something that happens when, if it's, go back to the sort of sports team analogy, like if a team has been winning for too long, they do tend to get a little complacent, a little entitled, and then they don't win the championship anymore. So California's been winning for a long time. And I think they're taking it for granted a little bit, yeah.
Let's talk a little more on innovation in corporate America in general. I mean, innovation has always been core to who you are. It's how you think about your companies and your role. In the corporate suite in America, are companies in general fostering and developing and innovation and as the leaders in corporate America, you've got a lot of them on this call. Do we prioritize innovation as much as we might or need to? Do you think right now?
Well, I think there's innovation, but then there's also just our CEOs in corporate America focus enough on product improvement. I think the answer is no. And I think generally my advice or my recommendation would really be spend less time on finance, spend less time in conference rooms, less time on PowerPoint, and more time just trying to make your product as amazing as possible. And the company can take their cue from that.
Why is that? Is that because boards or shareholders are too finance and return focused and don't think enough about product as being at the heart of value? Is it because a certain kind of skill is cultivated? Why is that? Why is that a problem in the C-suite?
I think there might be too many MBAs running companies. There's the MBAization of America, which I think is maybe not that great. There should be more focus on the product, the service itself, less time on board meetings, less time on financials. The financials come as a result of, like you say, like, what's the point of a company at all? And why even have companies? It's like a company is an assembly of people gathered together to create a product or service and deliver that product or service. And sometimes people lose sight of that. A company has no value in and of itself. It only has value to the degree that it is an effective allocator of resources to create goods and services that are of greater value than the cost of the inputs. This thing we call profit is should just mean over time that the value of the output is worth more than the inputs.
And it's a reflection of the quality of the